I'd like to make some observations about Korea today, which of course is in the news yet again. When I joined the army back in '69, there were still, '67 I should say, there were still plenty of Korean veterans around in the regiment. So I've listened to many a hoary tale from the old vets from the Korean Peninsula. A nasty, nasty war. Under-publicised, nothing glorious about it, 100,000 casualties, but successful action in many ways. United Nations action led largely by the Americans, which stopped the communist push to the south of the Korean Peninsula. The mistake that was made, of course, was on the counterattack going north of the 38th parallel, which of course involved the Chinese. And that turned it into a much bigger, more complicated war, which I don't think necessarily needed to take place. And of course they ended up in the same place virtually with the 38th parallel as the current border, and that was after 100,000 Allied casualties and probably in the region of 3 million civilian casualties on both sides. Lord only knows how many Chinese or North Korean soldiers. So not very good from that regard. But what did come out of it, which was good, the South Koreans, and Japan of course at the end of the war was a beaten nation. Two of those nations now, those two nations, are two of the most successful economic nations on the face of the planet. South Korea has an army of 650,000. The Japanese, you may or may not know, have an astonishingly efficient navy, second perhaps only to the American Navy, certainly in the Pacific theatre and probably globally. So they're perfectly capable of looking after themselves with a rogue state like North Korea. The only thing they don't have, of course, is the mutual deterrent. They're still under the nuclear umbrella of the Americans, and this, of course, is totally anachronistic. That needs to go. That's really quite absurd. If they had their own tactical local missile system, it would be the deterrent would actually keep the peace as it has done in Europe for 70 years between the Warsaw Pact countries and NATO. That is the way to deal with it. To make sure that South Korea and Japan have their own capability. That takes America out of the game, which is a good thing, and it takes China, therefore, out of the game. The worst thing you can possibly think of doing is to have two superpowers dragged in to this kind of conflict, which of course is what happened in 1914 to the world's cost. Leave it local as far as local, contain it locally as far as one can possibly do, and I think this is the way forward to get rid of what has been a festering sore in that part of the world almost for my complete lifetime. I really think it can be dealt with, and we need to get on and do it with a pragmatic, not perfect, a pragmatic solution. I've fleshed the idea out a little bit on my website in an essay for those interested in military strategy. Hope you enjoy it.